To truly give you the gift of freedom as you walk along the path of each daily shortcut episode, you'll discover that it's the people who you mastermind with that give you the power to transform your business. You'll take off in your business when you decide to slow down time and connect with other great mentors. When you decide to embrace fully the transformational information from one of my mentors, as we open a new door to a vehicle you can step inside and smile, taking one step and then the other. As we open a new door to a vehicle, as you walk on a stage so we can celebrate you. Pay attention to William Wood in this special episode as he shines a light on the power you have inside so you can immerse yourself in the principles of success, lift your hands in the air, and be free.
Hi, my name is William Wood, creator of the Lifestyle Profits Academy. I help entrepreneurs take their personal and professional performance to the next level by helping them reach their goals and live their dream lifestyle. Today's show is dedicated to your success, helping you deepen your understanding of several powerful techniques to become a better listener. And listening opens the doorway to your personal and professional influence. While you're listening to today's show, I would like to encourage you to ask yourself this question: who else might benefit from the information I just learned? As a few people come to mind, will you share the link to today's episode? It only takes one idea to totally change someone's life, and all you have to do is share the link. How cool is that? When you leave a comment below this post, you'll automatically be entered into a contest to win a copy of the book, Just Listen. Discover the secret to get through to absolutely anyone, by Mark Goulston, who talks about the power that listening has to influence others. All you need to do to win your copy of Goulston's book is to post a meaningful comment below immediately after listening to today's episode. One person who leaves a meaningful comment will win a free copy of Goulston's book shipped directly to their home or business. Now let's dive into today's training on listening.
Now, a couple of other techniques that I think are really helpful in establishing, listening skills. One is the idea of what I call the sacred grunt. These are really words that aren't words, or they're little simple phrases. Somebody's talking and you go, wow, right? I mean, just little things. I mean, that sounds funny. I mean, it sounds funny when I string them all together, but like in a conversation, if somebody says something impactful, you're like, wow. No, and then maybe it even is a few, like a simple phrase, like no kidding, sure, or bummer, right? Or whatever it happens to be. And then all these little nonverbal sounds like, eek, right? All these little things that make the conversation go. Mm-hmm. Super helpful. These may be more important than the words you speak.
Well, so that's actually some feedback that we got from some of you, the listeners out there, was that when you and I first started this show together, it would be, one would be speaking, and there would be this lengthy, almost monologue. And then, really? Yeah. And then it would be like, okay, now it's your turn. Right. And we still do that. But some of the feedback was like, hey, look, this is really good information, but it feels like monologue followed by a monologue followed by a monologue. But that wasn't natural. We were just trying to learn how to negotiate through
technology.
Through the technology. And see, I mean, that right there. I mean, we now have this established rapport. We have this practice. And as a result, the listening to the show is a lot more comfortable. It's a lot smoother because we have those, as you said, the sacred grunt. I'm thinking of the cow grazing along and you're talking to it and it goes,
but it's natural. It's natural. Yeah. It's not a technique. It's like what people do who are being present in a conversation. Right. And you don't have to use one sound if it feels uncomfortable to you, but there's a way to acknowledge that the other person is speaking and that they've had something. And you can do that verbally with a word, but a lot of times it's not a word. It's just like, woo, yee, eek, right? Or whatever it happens to be. Another technique that is really useful is an idea that has been described as reflective listening. And reflective listening basically has two different categories to it. It has a technique that involves the direct repetition of keywords and phrases that the other person says.
Sure.
Almost like a parroting, but not necessarily with the intention of mimicking. Mimicking is a different thing. Mimicking will not get you anywhere, right? But parroting or repeating these key phrases is a way of acknowledging that you've heard what the other person says. So somebody says, I'm really hurt. You might literally say back, you're hurt.
No, you're hurt.
Or you're really hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And the person can then has the space to either clarify or agree. There's a bunch of reasons to do reflective listening, but it's an incredibly powerful tool. Now, sometimes it can get a little overbearing if all you're doing is repeating exactly what the other person has to say. And so you can also mix and match with a little bit of paraphrase. Now, you got to be careful about paraphrasing. And I'm going to give you my preference here with paraphrasing in just a moment. But paraphrasing is an incredibly powerful way to reflect. So let's say somebody talks for a minute or two. You haven't really said much. You can pause and say, so what you're saying is, and then you summarize, and maybe you use a couple of keywords, but then you're just kind of stating it in your own language.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be a way of also reflecting back the content to someone and noticing whether or not they're on the same page. Now, if you do reflection, I think it's important to reflect it back in the same type of languaging that they do. So, for example, if somebody says, I see a brilliant future, a bright white light that's filling my life, they're in a very visual system when they're talking. So if I was to paraphrase back, I would probably paraphrase back using a visual metaphor as well. Or if they were in their feelings, I would, if somebody says, I just really don't feel like this is a good situation, I would also reflect back in a feeling. Even if I was paraphrasing, I'd reflect back in a feeling-based system to match where they're at. So I've seen people do this poorly. So for example, a client comes in to a new coach and he says to the coach, it's like, I just don't see a way out of this. And he's maybe looking up and his hands are open. He's in a visual mode. And so if the therapist goes, you don't feel like there's a way out,
or you feel lost,
that might be too big a disconnect for the client. And they go, no, it's not that I don't feel lost. It's I can't see a way out. Now, They might not respond to that, but a lot of people will react if you get if you paraphrase too badly. So if you are paraphrasing, you've got to open up your eyes and you've got to listen with your eyes and notice again, are they getting tense? So those are a few techniques. Now I want to open it up to Christian to add to any of this, but I also want to give you a couple of visual cues that I think are pretty important as you're watching somebody. 3 areas to watch: eyes, mouth, hands. Eyes, mouth, and hands of the other person. So if I'm talking to somebody and all of a sudden they get squinty-eyed on me, what could that mean? Now, I don't know what that means, but what could that mean? It could mean that they are having a hard time seeing what I'm saying, right? It could mean that they have a concern that's come into their mind.
Yep.
It could mean that they have something they want to ask me. So if I see squinty eyes, I'm actually I'm going to pause and I'm going to check in. So if I'm talking and I get squinty eyes, I'm going to pause. The second thing that I'm looking for is tight lips. If I'm talking to somebody and all of a sudden their lips get tense, now it can be mild tension, and where I'm looking is especially at the lower lip, the way that the lower lip shows up. If there's any kind of tension in that lower lip, they got something they want to say. And I need to go out of talking mode and I need to go into listening mode. Or I need to do a check-in at least. Maybe they're just thinking, but there's at least some energy of wanting to talk or speak, or maybe they have a thought or they have a doubt or something like that. And I don't know what that is, but I got to do a check-in. So it's not like, oh, I see this is always what it means. It's like, if I see it, I'm probably going to pause and do a check-in. If I'm talking to a big group of people and I see a lot of squinty eyes and tight lips, I know that I got to do a check-in with the group, right? And figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Hands. First thing that happens typically if somebody has something to say and you're not giving them space to say it, is their lip will get tight and their eyes will get squinty. The next thing that will happen is that their hand will go up towards their mouth. Now, it might be on the chin, or it might be, and he's laughing, Christian's laughing because his hand was just up on his chin. It might be up on his chin. it might go up to the lips. And typically, the more badly that someone wants to say something, the more they're going to cover their mouth. It's like, they're like, if you see somebody with like a hand completely over their mouth, it's like you have got to give this person a chance to speak, because the next thing that will happen is they will totally disengage.
Yep.
And you'll lose them. So if you're talking to somebody and you see squinty eyes followed by a tight lip, or a tight lip followed by squinty eyes, and then you see a hand reach up to the mouth, for the love of all that's holy, stop talking and do a check-in, because you're going to really save yourself a lot of pain.
So I can just imagine what you look like as you're practicing these observations and these skills as you're driving down the road, Will. Because earlier you referenced, if you ever see me driving down the road and you see me doing this,
my little invisible person is over there with their arms crossed and their hand over their mouth, and and there's a lot of things on body posture that I don't, that may or may not be true. But typically what I'm looking for is I'm looking for 3 signals that agree. And I'm also looking for changes. So, if somebody comes in and they've got their arms crossed the whole session, I don't necessarily think that they're like closed off. But if I'm all of a sudden talking and they've been really open in their gestures and all of a sudden they close off, that probably is a signal to check in.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So in terms of listening body posture, open gestures, uncrossed arms, open, and uncrossed legs, eyebrows slightly raised. If you're a woman, you can get away with a head tilt. With a guy, you can probably do a little minor head tilt, but it looks a little weird if your head's too tilted. But you see a lot of women tilt the head when they're listening. And it's a really open, vulnerable signal, and it works pretty well. So those are some things to mind technique-wise.
If you liked the training you got today, you will love The Daily Show, which airs 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. To subscribe, scroll to the bottom of this page and enter your name and best email address. Most days, you'll hear from David Wood, my financial freedom mentor. 1 day a week, you'll hear from me. You'll also get several bonuses when you subscribe today, including a free MP3 version of my words training. This 50-minute MP3 training teaches you how to use your words to create influence and reprogram your subconscious mind. When you scroll down and subscribe to The Daily Show, you'll also get a free PDF of today's message and an MP3 version that you can listen to on the go to reinforce today's ideas deep into your subconscious mind. You'll become more powerful on your path to freedom because you're reinforcing the principles that will create your success, freedom, and lifestyle. I look forward to seeing you again soon next time. This is William Wood, and I believe in you.